Yes, Emma, go for it. So let me do a quick introduction on you. So Emma is a Pilates instructor, and I'm not going to go through all of her qualifications because I think she's going to maybe talk about us now about it. But Emma is very much into movement, and she's been, one thing that really interests me about Emma is the fact that she's been sort of bringing work from home Pilates into her practice. So I think she's maybe going to touch on that tonight. But Emma, if you would like to just sort of take it away and go for it.
Okay. Hello, evening to everyone. So what I thought I would do this evening with you is just to give you a few things that you can kind of do at home or when you're kind of at your desk. So my background is Pilates, yoga. I've done some kind of counselling as well. And I'm kind of really interested in, you know, since the lockdown, people have been having to kind of sit down and work at kind of desk spaces that aren't ideal, you know, like the kitchen kind of counter and kind of sat at the table as well doing stuff. So I thought, yeah, I'd give you a few kind of tips on kind of how to kind of sit. So the first thing that I'd like to say is that there isn't any really correct way of sitting. I think quite often we're told to kind of sit up like really bolt upright, and actually the human body is really made for movement. You know, we're supposed to kind of move around kind of all of the time, and when we're sat at our desk, obviously we kind of get into that kind of fixed position. So there's not many jobs you have where you just happen to have a pelvis just kind of hanging around. So this is kind of a human pelvis, and I just want to kind of show you the bottom of it. So these are called your sits bones. So if I kind of sit this kind of in front of you like this, yeah, that's kind of how you are kind of right now when you're sat on your chair. So actually, I'll get a bit closer. I don't know if you can see, but the bottom of the pelvis, there's quite a big chunk here of your sitting bones. So I want you all to kind of sit up nice and tall. What is your best posture? Impress me. There we go, very nice. Okay, and then from here, you're going to roll to the back of your sits bones. So that's going to look like this, like super comfy on the sofa. Yeah. So this isn't a bad position for you to be in. It's just a bad position for you to be in all of the time. So the second position, which we've already been in, was that nice kind of upright one. And then the third position is you're going to bring yourself forward as if you were listening to someone really interesting, which obviously is me right now. Yeah. So this would you be forward of your sits bones. So when you're at your desk, these kind of three positions are generally kind of what you're sat like. So you can't really see my feet, but if you come to kind of the upright position and you bring your left leg forward and then take your right leg behind you, can you feel how that kind of tilts your pelvis slightly forward? Can I get a thumbs up, or like, what is she talking about? Okay, nice. So this is like quite a nice position for you to be in when you're typing. It slightly tilts the pelvis forward, keeps the spine nice and vertical, and you can type. Just remember to swap the legs over because you'll have like a favorite side that you want to go to. The other options when you're sat at your desk is to kind of take your legs as wide as possible. Yeah, what this is going to do, it's going to open your hips up. The problem is sitting at a desk is we tend to be in this position, and then all of the muscles along here get really, really tight. So just by kind of opening your legs out to the side, having some variation when you're sitting can be really helpful to stop you getting those kind of stiff hips. And then the last one, if you can, bring your ankle over the top of your knee. And that stretches out what's called the posterior hip, basically your butt. And if you lean slightly forward, when you do that, you might feel like, oh, yes, seeing some nice stretchy faces, yeah. And then make sure you do the other one if you can. And again, just leaning forward. Yeah, so that's some different positions for you to kind of have your legs in whilst you're kind of sat at the computer. And then the other thing that you can do when you're sat down is just to start to pay attention to your breath. When we get stressed, we tend to kind of start to pull our shoulders up towards our ears, yeah? The head kind of goes slightly forward, and we end up kind of typing fervently like this. So just by having a bit of awareness of your breath is a really nice way to just stop you kind of getting into this position. So if you're just going to place your hands on your breastbone or your sternum, yeah, so just like this. And we're going to inhale through our noses and then we're going to exhale through our mouths. Okay, so you ready? So you're going to inhale, and then exhale. And again, you're going to do it again. So you can feel as you inhale, your chest rises, and then as you exhale, it falls back down. So you don't have to do anything. Your body is just doing this naturally. Inhale to lift, and exhale to let it drop down. So now you're going to bring your hands just to kind of your ribs, to the sides of your body. So kind of find a place where you can kind of feel your rib cage. And this time we're going to focus on what's called a lateral breath, so a breath that goes out to the side. So same idea, inhaling, feel that expansion out to the side. Exhale, you should feel the ribs kind of soften and come down. And again, breathing in and out. And one more. Nice. Okay, so the last one's a little bit more tricky to kind of get into, but it's basically the back of your body. So if you've got a chair, you've got access to the back of a chair, it's kind of useful to kind of feel that. If you don't have access to the back of a chair, you can kind of just place one hand kind of back here. This is deeply attractive. And then the other hand kind of up over you if you have the shoulder range. Okay. And then from here, as you breathe in, see if you can kind of feel any movement at the back of your body. Like you're trying to push your rib cage into your hands. And again, so breathing into the back of the body.
This is live.
And last time, breathing in.
Oh, nice.
And nice. So when you're back against a chair or something, you can probably feel it a little bit more. So most of us are pretty good at this sternal breath, this up and down one. We can usually find this kind of side breath. The back breath tends to be a bit more tricky. And the reason for that is that our eyes are obviously at the front of our bodies, and we generally don't think about the back side of our body very often. And the reason that we want to kind of find this back breath is you've actually got more lung tissue at the back of your body than you do at the front and the sides. Yeah, so you can't increase your lung capacity, but you can increase lung efficiency. And the way that you can do that is by thinking about breathing kind of more 360. So even when you're sat here, I'm gonna have a go now, you're gonna inhale and see if you can kind of find the front, the sides, and the back of the body. So here we go, taking a big inhale and feel that expansion of the lungs all the way around. And again, breathing in, maybe think about the back of your body a little bit more. And one more. So breathing like that does two things for you. The lung tissue, I already said. The other thing is when you breathe in through your nose, you kind of take your body into what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. So you've got two bits of your nervous system. So you've got the parasympathetic, which is more your rest and digest. And then you've got your parasympathetic, which is kind of, you've just had a really stressful email, you've got into kind of a fight with your partner. It really elevates the system. And what we want to try and do is to bring our system back down to this parasympathetic. Yeah, so just by inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth, that's enough to bring your nervous system down. It's amazing. It's super cheap. Like you just need to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. So the last thing I want to do with you is bring you all up to standing. So when you spend a lot of time sat down, your body is in this constant state of remodeling. So if you spend all of your time sat down, your body will adapt to making your body really good at sitting down. So what it does is it shortens kind of the back line of the body, it tightens up through here. If you sit forward for kind of years and years, your body lays down this kind of connective tissue to support your neck in this position. So your body is always trying to help you to be as good and as efficient as it is in a position that you're in a long time. So it starts off with these kind of little spider webs of connective tissue. And then eventually it kind of builds up to more of like scaffolding. So the way to kind of break up the spider webs, as it were, is just to get up and move. So if you set on your computer, whatever works for you, every kind of half an hour, you know, if you're doing a piece of work and you're really into it, just at the end of it, just remind yourself to get up and move. So my favorite thing to do is up you come. So you're going to come to standing. And as ridiculous as this is, it's really great for getting blood flow around your body and breaking up all of these little spider webs. Okay, so start with your feet just kind of hip width apart, and then you're going to jiggle kind of your legs, yeah? And then the same, you're going to kind of jiggle your butt as well. And then you're going to go through to the torso and your arms and just kind of shake everything. Like you were trying to shake everything kind of away from the bones. And go a little faster. And if you go really fast, you'll end up sounding like me. Let your head move. Go a little faster and then stop. And then you should kind of feel quite tingly kind of through your body. Yeah? And that's it really. That's enough to kind of wake your body up, get that blood flow going again, and getting rid of those spider webs. So the last thing I want to do before I go is to help release the shoulder girdle. So kind of, we tend to hold a lot of attention up around here, and a really simple way of releasing that is to take your arms overhead, kind of very monkey-esque. Yeah, nice, gorillas, orangutans. Yep, and then you can imagine that you're swatting flies kind of just above your head, and kind of really go for it with the arms. Like let the shoulders kind of move as much as humanly possible. Hold of the shoulder and then stop, and then go in the opposite direction, which will probably feel really weird. And then stop, and then bring the arms all the way down. There you go. Okay, so that's kind of all I've got for you. Just to kind of recap, sitting position, make sure that you kind of change position, offered, forward, back, that you can kind of cross your legs over, opening them out to the side, to pay attention to your breath, yeah, that you can kind of get out of that parasympathetic, into the parasympathetic nervous system, as it were, and then just using this one for releasing kind of tension in the shoulders and the necks. So I'm just going to, can I unmute everyone, or do you have to unmute them? There you go. Perfect.
Sure. Well done. Thank you very much. Any questions about any of that? No, great. Let's move on. Have we got time for one more quick one? How are we doing? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me do one more thing, which is this. I have a Rubik's cube.
I'm confused.
So I have a Rubik's cube, and the reason for that is I've nothing to do on the lockdown.
Just generally.
So, any questions? Maybe don't want to raise their hand, or and I will unmute you individually. Might be easier. Can everyone hear me still? Yeah. We're not clicking on mute, and it's not actually unmuting you. Maybe you have to unmute yourselves as well, possibly.
Yeah. There's a little pop-up that comes up, and you have to sort of select like a host would like you to.
Ah, okay. All good then. Well, Emma, that was actually unbelievable. That was really cool. See the first question. Can I ask see the tingle sensation thing that you talked about at the end whenever you shake your whole body? Like I've done a bit of Wim Hof breath. So I actually got two questions for you. I've done a bit of Wim Hof breathing.
The other way. Do you want to go the other way? Okay. Stephen, what side and what direction?
Right.
And
Bottom two, going left.
Bottom two. Thank you. Like that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
There we go. That's sorted. I won't name and shame who that is. So anyway, Emma, so back to the question. So I've been doing a bit of Wim Hof breath before. And whenever I've been doing the breathing, I was getting the tingle sensation there. And whenever I did that shake there, I got the same sort of tingle thing just after you said it. So just a question, do you know why is that happening? Or is that to do with, or do you know why that's happening, out of interest?
So I don't know about the Wim Hof breathing technique in any detail, but the reason why it's happening is you've just woken up your nervous system, and you've just like, almost like you've like shaken kind of everything up. So, you know, like when you get kind of like pins and needles and that horrible sensation, that's just kind of your nervous system kind of going, hi, and that's exactly kind of what's happening there. It's that simple. It wears off really quickly. Yeah, I use it a lot in my classes. I find it really, really effective. And yeah, you just feel a little bit more alive.
It's fascinating. I feel like 10 times more awake just after doing that. And even the posture one where you were putting, just having your knee over your leg like that and sitting up straight. Like, it's just simple stuff like that you can just do while you're working easily on a keyboard. It'll just, I do feel, and I think even more so like, whenever you sort of have better posture in that, you sort of feel more confident anyway. So I think the more you're actually sitting at your desk, sitting up good posture, you're just going to be more confident and like doing better work and being better on Zoom calls. So yeah, that was awesome. Thanks very much. Does anyone else have any more questions?
But I have like better circulation now around the left side of my leg, so I'm really happy with it. I have like a lower back issue that it kind of, every time I sit down, my left leg goes a wee bit numb sometimes from time to time, but it's actually, I can feel warmth going down my leg now, so I'm like, yeah. So yeah, that's really good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Amazing.
There's one more
Can I just,
question.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was actually going to say that you had questioned the chat, so I was actually going to say that.
Yeah, just about a kneeling chair. You mentioned about back support there for one of those stretches. So I'm just wondering, is a kneeling chair a bad idea then, since it doesn't have a back support really?
You know, I don't think there's anything that's really bad. It really is just about what works for your body. And if you're finding with that kneeling chair that you do find that you're constantly rounding forward, then maybe like swap out between kind of some different ones. There was an article recently that I contributed towards. I'll send it through, and it kind of talks about kind of ergonomic furniture kind of at home. It's quite interesting, but I would just say, you know your body the best. Figure out kind of what feels good kind of for it. I mean, and swapping things around is always a good thing, because your body then doesn't get used to being in the same position. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, that was amazing. And you've just also, because we're recording this event tonight, you've sort of sorted us out for some marketing material for our TikTok channel we're going to launch next week. So that was probably just seemed to be what the kids are doing on TikTok these days. So like epic stuff. Thanks very much, Emma. So if no one has anyone else questions, no more questions, we can move on to Eve McCann. Possible, Eve, are you happy to take the lead next?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a song for me switching over. So hello everybody. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about 10 things you need to know about remote facilitation. It's all about digital facilitation and energizing participants in remote workshops. Kind of just start about what Emma was saying about everybody sitting at a desk and suddenly all of our life has went digital. So I'm going to tell you 10 things that might help you energize in those situations. To kick things off, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me and who I am. So I am Belfast born before going to Glasgow to study at the Glasgow School of Art. There I studied product design. You'll see sort of a busy studio environment down below, and that was pretty typical for our studio. During my time studying product design, I had the opportunity to go away and do an exchange at the Cologne International School of Design. There I studied integrated design with a lot of multidisciplinary practice, a lot of working across disciplines. And then studying in Verona, where I did an Italian internship, really looking at sustainable business practice and ethical businesses and how people and products come together in a sustainable way. Before returning to Glasgow to graduate, which you'll see the graduation snap there with me and my family over on the left-hand side. So outside of the design sphere, just before lockdown, I went up to the very north of Scotland with a few of my friends and went skiing, which wasn't very good, many falls. And that was pretty good though. I really enjoyed that. And then later in lockdown, sort of when things have came back to Belfast, I had a bladesmithing course as part of up in the hills of Antrim, where I was sort of crafting away, and you'll see that there. So that's who I am sort of outside of the Lloyds environment. So who am I with Lloyds? So I'm a service designer with the Lloyds Banking Group, and I my daily job is I endeavour to help protect people and their loved ones on a day-to-day through life insurance and critical illness insurance products. What that means is that I do an awful lot of workshops. I work multidisciplinary, and I run events internally and externally with organisations and community groups. So these have went really digital really quickly. So I've been doing a lot of this more recently. So today I'm just going to chat about 10 things you should know about remote facilitation. So number 1, so keep a bank of icebreakers. So you can't always translate what happens in an in-person workshop activities on a digital platform. So this is an event on the right-hand side that I had with Snook. And I think a lot of these tips and tricks can work, not just with workshops, but with meetings, and everybody seems to be going to very meeting-heavy environments. On the right-hand side, there's an event that happened with Snook, a service design agency based in Glasgow and in London, where they had 132 participants. We all gathered around a circle and started off an icebreaker. And this one happened to be 100 ways to squeeze a lemon, which is one of my sort of favourite icebreakers. Everybody sort of gets a pack of post-its and throws down these really fast ideas, and they all go around in a circle. But to translate this into a digital environment, everybody has to go in a chat function, for example, or shout out. And that might mean that the participant who says something first seems like this massive thing, when really you want them to say all the weird and wacky ways to squeeze a lemon in this case, whether that's, you getting the cat to sit on it, or, you kick it with a baseball bat, or whatever it is. But in those cases, it's really helpful to utilize your co-facilitator and to provide examples. So that co-facilitator can take over that bit of the hurdle for all the other participants to take that bullet. So right now, I'm going to utilize the chat function because that's going to be our takeaway too, and ask, what weird and wonderful ways have you seen facilitators keep their participants engaged? I'll come back to your answers. So if you just populate the chat, we'll sort of look at them at the end and we'll pull out all the fun ones. I'd love to learn about how other people are sort of energizing their participants in sessions. So number 2, use the chat function. Participants have a lot of different preferences. Some people are really happy to shout out and really happy to have the conversation, while other people are a lot more reserved and are better communicating in chat functions. You just have to be really aware of that. You want everybody to have a good time in your sessions. You want everybody to have the best possible time, really. So it's just good to be conscious of that. But saying that, the chat function really cuts down on time. You're not having to go around the full circle like you would in real life. Rather, you can pull out the really exciting or really interesting options that people are saying. Number 3, so you have to keep the vibes high from the beginning, and you'll see sort of how I play a song at the very start to try and keep the vibes high. But music really plays a huge part in making people feel comfortable in sessions. Sometimes it works really well and it really sets the tone of the session that you're going to do. Another thing that music can do is can really craft the story, where you can tell people to do certain things by the music you play. It can act as sort of a filler if there's awkward silences, and it can encourage participant actions. And what I mean by that, so I'm going to play you a little bit of another song. My timings are over here, and I'm just gonna... Harder, better, faster, stronger. So that's a song that we would play in workshops if we're asking people to speed up a bit because they're being a bit slow and they're not really keeping to the time. Or if we are asking people to do an activity again, like asking to repeat something, this tends to really help. One bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one gone, and another one gone. Another one bites the dust. Hey. So those are some variations of songs that really work in our sessions, but your group might be different. And then, so number 4, pre-work really helps. It really helps you to understand your audience, giving context of the theory that you produce. If you understand your audience, you'll understand how to energize them best and understand what content they'll really dive in for and what will just really go over their heads. If you understand your audience, you'll understand how much theory to go into. I'm often in multidisciplinary groups. I'm a designer, I'm a service designer, and I have design training, but not all my groups will, in the same way that if I was in a business meeting, it might be the same thing, but just on the business side. So it's very helpful to understand that, so you understand what detail you have to give, so everybody has something to bite into. Pre-work also gives you an awareness of tech issues, so you don't have to resolve them in live. If you are resolving them in live, it just can take a lot of time. Some of the issues that I face are different parts of the business have different laptops and different software that people can't communicate on, and just makes things a lot easier to resolve ahead if they can flag that early. So number 5 is keep to time. So you really can only plan for your own side of tech failure, and you can do everything in your part is to make that possible. But sometimes it would just happen in live. People can have their own Wi-Fi issues, and they can have their own sort of access issues and permissions issues. So it's helpful if you can keep your activities going ahead. It's hard to plan time in digital though, where participants may be more or less engaged than initially planned. You might have something that you said as a throwaway comment that people have really exciting, engaged conversations in, and you want people to have those conversations and those discussion points because they're really fun and that's what you're there for. But there's other things that you think will have massive chats around and no one really bites. So it's just important to have that bit of cushion of time in your sort of schedule. Number 6. So number 6 is call people by name. And I think it's just helpful to just sort of flag up to say there's 2 sides of this. So on one side, you're saying calling someone directly by name can be uncomfortable, especially for participants who favor the chat function rather than sort of voiceover. And this is something that I'm sort of exploring myself because I'm not really sure what the right answer is. You know, I think there's some sort of point if you have your camera off and someone directly calls on you, that is a little bit edgy. However, for the groups that I have participated in and facilitated where they are more comfortable with each other, this really works extremely well. People are at the edge of their seats and they think they might be called on to answer. So it means that everybody's voice is heard, everybody's aware that they're going to have to interact and participate to the conversation. And you want everybody's perspectives to be heard to shape the thing that you're creating. One way I find of doing this is registers, just sort of checking off as people enter the room to make sure everybody's spoken. It's quite helpful and very low tech. So number 7 is quick and snappy sessions. A little bit on the time sort of takeaway as well, but this is more to do with the actual attention span you have people sitting at a desk for. Attention spans in digital is really limited. People might, on this sort of call, might have had the experience of having, you know, Google sprints 4 days long or whatever, like, or for example, hackathons say last a weekend, everybody stays up to these ridiculous hours, but in digital that's not really possible. You know, attention span limited. We're all very guilty of the Instagram scroll or sort of replying to someone on a text while half listening, like it's just something that happens. So it's really helpful if you keep things to 60 minutes as an optimum period of time. 90 minutes you can keep people for as an absolute luxury, but 60 has really worked well for us. Number 8, so 2 heads is better than 1. I think it's really preferable that you have 2 people to manage tech. On the right hand side, you'll see an event that I facilitated in life where there were 60 designers gathered together to create ideas on a particular theme. But in the same way you'd have facilitators in real life, you should have them in digital because there's a lot to manage. It's helpful if you have one person managing the tech and one person facilitating. And I've been on either sides of this. So I've been fully facilitating in live and I've also been fully doing the tech, or I've done a bit of a job share and mixed and matched depending on different points of sort of the slide flow. The reason for that is that there's just a lot of things that can go wrong. People having issues, some needs to be taken off to the side to resolve that as if it's a tech failure. People need to group post-its and theme things, which is quite design heavy in my world. That's my day-to-day. But you'll probably have your own sort of things that you need to do. But it's quite difficult to do that while still having the conversation with people in the group and really encouraging the dialogue and really sort of feeding into it in the way that you'd really hope to. So if you can have those 2 people saying that, acting in those space, it's really good. Number 9, so open the deck and browser. Can you really count on your Wi-Fi connection? My Wi-Fi connection has seemed to hold up for this. Well, I have a few more slides, so we'll see. But it seemed to hold up. The Wi-Fi is pretty dodgy. Let's be honest. Like it can go wrong, especially if you're about to say something. If you can share your deck ahead of time in the your PowerPoint or whatever it is, we call them decks, but it can just be a PowerPoint. But ahead of time, it means that people can take ownership over it, flag any early stage concerns. We've had a lot of people say things like, "Oh, I couldn't have access to that. Can you give me permission?" for example, because they sat in a different area of the business, and that was something that wasn't foreseen previously, and sort of where you just had to sort of approve it. But if you resolve those, it's all kind of good. Opening the deck and browser also helps people collaborate in live, so they can write their own post-its, as you can see here in the picture, where people have sort of typed in something of their own, which means that no one's twiddling their thumbs, they're engaged and they're interacting with each other, but in a digital space. Number 10, work really hard to create a relaxed atmosphere. It's quite important to maintain good energy from the start to the end of the workshop, so there's no one trailing off at the end. Water cooler chat won't always happen in digital, and I remember myself and David had conversations at a previous meetup about this water cooler chat and water cooler chat in a digital space, where there's other things that have started to kick off these sort of chat rooms off the side of meeting rooms. There's one called Cozy Room at the minute, but I know that a lot of work laptops won't allow that to be accessed. And sometimes you have to create your own dialogue yourself by just basically showing and telling what you're actually doing in live. I have a recommendation coming next that might help that. And then good communication with your co-facilitator is one of the best things that's happened as part of these workshops, because if there is no water cooler chat, having a conversation with the co-facilitator could just make everything very smooth, and people can just join in with the casual conversation as they would sitting around a table. So these are some things I like that are quite helpful for digital facilitation and trying meetings. One of them was a book about how to own the broom. It's titled Women, the Art of Brilliant Public Speaking, but I think it's really applicable for everybody. It's quite helpful in the way that a lot of these meetings that happen in digital, everybody's on mute and there's not really a conversation going the same way until we sort of work that out. So this was just trying to get that comfortable with the idea that someone might not actually come back to you. You might be sort of speaking to the open void in a digital sense. Miro is also really good if you're having meetings or workshops in live and in digital. You can create these sort of digital post-its, and that was the picture that just came before, where you can allow participants to actively do that. Another book recommendation was by Austin Kleon, which was Show Your Work. This is a little bit more design heavy, but it's quite helpful for talking about your process. So like I said before, just about if you're talking about what you've been doing and how you've been doing it, then Show Your Work is quite a good book for that. It just kind of leads you how you might actually start to articulate that in life. And then a session lab is another one that is a tool for workshop flow. So if you're quite new to workshops or meeting plans, that allows you to sort of book out sort of time slots and share them as a PDF or share them with other participants, that I think is quite good. So I asked at the start of this, what weird and wonderful ways have you seen facilitators keep their participants engaged? But I actually can't see them because I'm share, so I'm gonna have to come up share to see the answers. So I am going to come back into the Zoom chat. I'm not sure I can do it actually. I'm not sure it will let me do the two things at once. But that was pretty much it from me. I'll stop sharing and pull out a few more. But thanks very much. If anybody wants to contact me or ask me any further questions, I'm pretty easy to find on Instagram. I'm gonna stop sharing so I can read all the good questions.
Awesome, Heath. Thank you so much. That was really, really interesting.
FC say normally or through COVID, breakout rooms, stuff. I think breakout rooms are really helpful though. Like I think breakout rooms can make things a lot more comfortable and casual. Jenny, like has that happened over Zoom or what is it that you were using? Just curiosity for me.
Yes, over Zoom. Sorry, there we are. So yeah, no, it is about trying to get that interaction, and that's kind of, we talk about the water cooler chat and just that kind of more informal. It's hard.
It's hard. It's really hard. I think, especially when it's big groups with people across businesses, like I've definitely found that, you know, if you join something, there's 30 people in the call and you maybe know 3 of them, and then suddenly you're having to be doing the whole like, how's your day? It seems to be quite different than having these like smaller little groups. You can pull someone to the side. Rachel, you've also found directing questions and tasks to individuals is quite helpful.
Yeah, I find, well, just from my own past experience, so if they know you, then I find that if you can engage someone directly, asking to share experience, asking to answer the question, then sometimes it can even reel off the other individuals, and, you know, kind of starts creating the conversation if you engage one member of the audience, you know, the group or whatever. And then just from being in past workshops and stuff, always sounds a good technique. Like, you know, if they pick a name off the list and go, what do you think?
Yeah.
You pick a name and go, well, what do you think? And then they'll, what's your opinion and how do you compare, you know? So I always find that kind of works. It gives you a bit of a shock. No, it's been my experience. It's been done on me, so I'd be like,
it's the shock, isn't it? It's the shock because you don't expect it, and it makes you engage, and you are put on the spot. So I think it works really well.
Yeah.
But I wonder how you can make it, you know, just given practice, so you are expected to be asked, and that's something I definitely think is quite. I think there's something quite interesting about that. I've definitely been looking at icebreakers recently, just myself, and about, you know, like, you know, when you were in school and you always had the conversation about like, pick a letter, you know, you had to say something you like to begin the first letter of your name, and it's always a bit awkward. I don't think we should really be having to recreate these sort of experiences, but equally, there's something quite good about getting people to say, you know, a bit of trauma. Didn't really like elephants that much. But yeah, that's I think it's just a really fair point.
That's I mean, I think getting people engaged is obviously a really key thing, like when it comes to these sort of events. So I think sharing experiences is a good one as well. When you get people together, I was one there recently at the start of the year, just January, before the whole COVID thing happened. We were basically put into like tiny groups where we were sharing experiences from a specific topic, but I found really good. People came out feeling really engaged and actually even gained information, you know, like even gained a bit of something that really they went away with something, you know, from it. So I think that's really, really important if you can get them all engaged in smaller groups where they can talk to each other with the topic. I find they tend to come away, even if they get a new contact, you know, it's still something they're going away with, like, you know. But
I think that's a good way to think about it. Like, if you come away with anything, just knowing something different about someone, it's of benefit.
Yeah, even their experiences. There could be a piece of information that could just trigger an idea or anything, you know, and you wouldn't think of even going to that event initially, but when you went, you come away with so much, you know. So
you know what you're actually saying reminds me, like, Dawn has written a point here about like people love telling stories, and you're so right. Like, Dawn, I think this is kind of just linking on quite nicely together.
Yeah, I suppose I've done a lot of training and coaching, and whenever I'm dealing with a group, I find if people can tell a story of some issue that they're having, some challenge in their business, or you know, some communication issue. Communication is what we do, and then someone else usually will tell another story of how to solve it. I think that goes down really well because just stories are easy to remember, aren't they? So I think that's a way to get people engaged, and generally like a conversation in real life, back in your private life, it will sort of trigger a series of stories then as well, so that can increase engagement too.
I think there's something really nice about that, about telling a story that's not like personal, but you know, a moment of joy that happened in your week, or a moment of when you were quite young and, you know, you went on a really great holiday or something, you know, all these sort of like little moments that people don't generally mind sharing that bit of themselves. You know, they had a fry up this week and it was quite late and they got up anyway and they made this amazing meal. Like, these are little moments that people can really buy in for, and I guess combine together with other participants in the group and sort of feel like they've actually they've made a connection there that's been outside of the workspace and the work ahead space.
Yeah, I think it takes the pressure as well. If you're a presenter, it takes the pressure off you too to, you know, provide everything and deliver all the information and all the knowledge. So it takes the pressure off presenters that There's obviously lots of other experience and expertise in the room, whether it's online or offline. So allowing those people to contribute, I think, can be really helpful. So you learn from everybody, not just the people who organise the event.
I'm just going to jump in here and say, you could take it too far. You could be like Trini Woodall. I don't know if you saw that, where she was doing a podcast. And there's Charles Saatchi behind her, naked. That could be memorable.
That's it.
Sorry,
that was memorable.
Very memorable.
Tone.
Yeah, just get the right tone with that.
Yeah.
But a good principle generally, and I think there's something quite nice about equalizing everybody, whether you're a very senior manager or whether you're a graduate. Like, gets everybody very everybody starts sort of sharing something on the same theme or same question. It makes everybody seem a lot more like humans in a room.
Yeah, people, going through the same thing. Yeah, 100%.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it, Eve. Go for it.
No, I was just going to read the next one, so you go for it.
What was the next one? Well, I was going to say about just about small talk in general, in terms of, like, I used to hate small talk whenever I worked in a company, and you would sort of ask the same questions all and over again. I'm not the type of person that sort of does well with small talk. So do you think with with Zoom and like having like these sort of online meetings and stuff like that, things will get maybe done to the point more? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, or do you think small talk's like really important for getting to know people and working together?
In my own experience, I think so. Every morning I have like a 9:30 call with my design team, and we have been talking about Bake Off consistently, and that has really revived people rather than starting off the day talking about work. Yeah. I'm not particularly a good baker. I'll hold my hands up and say I'm not a good cook. So this is something that I have joined in on, and people are really enjoying. But I think it's because so many of the calls have been really straight to the point and everybody getting everything done, and you join for that period of time, and there's nothing outside of the given content. So having that little bit of breath and a little bit of air to talk about something kind of throwaway, whatever you watched on TV the night before, things like that, has definitely energized my team a lot more. And there's value in it. There's been a lot of sort of coffee calls and people trying to put in sort of working lunches where you can actually talk over sort of a meal to try and make things a little bit more social. So it seems, from just experience and what I've been saying, it seems like there is a place for it in the digital world. I'm not sure if they're working as perfectly as they could be in the future, but there is some sort of coffee water cooler chat in the sort of digital space that requires people's faces and talking about something other than the 9 to 5.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. And I think Bake Off in general is a really good talking point, because Bake Off sort of, it just feels like Bake Offs came at the right time for society. We're able to like be together and enjoy like watching people just bake stuff, which is always awesome.
We have a team challenge this week. We have to make brownies, so we'll see how it goes.
It's sort of like the Netflix thing. I think that's why Netflix is quite good to bring up as like a small talk conversation, because there's so many things available on Netflix. You can say, "What are you watching Netflix at the moment?" and like it's pretty much open to like thousands of possibilities. So it's always a good thing to drop in.
There's another one there from Matt who was talking about what's special about people in the group, and everybody has their thing. I think that's really true. It's quite nice to highlight that, because everybody has their own unique perspective that they're coming forward with, like especially if you're working across multidisciplinary, or if you're working with different sections of the business either as well.
Awesome. And George at the end there says stories create emotions in people, and people remember how they are felt at the time. George, do you want to unmute and say hello to us and ask that question, or tell us a bit more about that? Or he's maybe not here.
I think it was with regards to what you were saying earlier. I think Dawn maybe was saying about it.
All right, okay.
Had made a reference, and then I think George was following on from that. If I'm right, I could be talking for him and getting it wrong.
You probably are.
Sounds good. So is that us then? Does anyone else have any more questions for Eve? Well, there's George jumping in on the chat there.
The dogs are going daft.
I have 3 of them downstairs, so literally I'm like, please no one come to the door because they will just start screaming. They're ridiculous.
It's quite I think that was something, was it Jenny? Oh no, so it wasn't, it was Kim. You know, they have the cats on the call. It's just one of those things, isn't it? You get very, very welcoming to
I love it. That's what I've really loved about lockdown, is just seeing everyone's animals. I'm like, hi, I like know all their names better than I know humans. Like,
you start to know their names and all, like you, yeah.
oh, everything about them, like full vet history, you know. So will I share my screen here?
Yes, go for it, Katie.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Eve. That was really interesting, and
yeah, that was really, really good. I could see, I was like literally nodding along to everything you were saying. I was like, yes. Let's see here now, because one thing I am not good at is technology. So this is where I'm like, help me. Oh, so all the in-person stuff usually suits me better. So this is definitely outside my comfort zone, which we'll be talking about later. I'm just going to say, does anyone know how I get the wee chat up, like at the same time? Can someone advise me in the techie world? Like, because I've got my PowerPoint up, but I don't know how to get it like at the side so I can see it as well. So like,
I
talk
couldn't
to you
figure it
guys.
out. That was just something that I was trying to do because I couldn't see the chat until I stopped sharing. But maybe I don't know.
Can you not just have the chat button at the bottom, and then I think you can. It'll pop up in itself, and then you can maybe just resize your screen a wee bit so you can fit it in.
Yeah, Katie, I was going to say, I was actually just exploring around. I have a series of webinars starting on Monday, and I was exploring the settings there just while you were speaking. There's something somewhere in the settings, can't remember exactly where you can display the controls all the time. So if you can come out of speaker view and go into your settings.
Oh God, right.
If you can.
This is going to be a lesson now. Everyone's going to be like, can she just get on with the PowerPoint, please?
Okay, Katie, go for it.
Right, so what am I doing? Coming out of speaker view. I think I'm out of that.
Yeah, and I think it's in, if you go into your
the options.
Preferences, if you go to Zoom Us, the menu up in the top left, beside just above your Zoom window, actually.
Mine looks different because I'm in the presenter view, I think.
Okay.
Oh no, I need that.
If you can find preferences, it's in there somewhere. I'll see if I can dig around and find it here. Maybe just under the chat preferences.
Sorry, guys. So I will get there, I promise.
Yeah, so try settings. I think maybe try settings and then into chat, possibly.
I'll tell you what, would it be annoying for people if I presented it off the PowerPoint like this so I can look at the chat?
It's not annoying. Go for it, Katie. Yeah.
Are you sure? Because I like to be able to see you guys, because otherwise I'm like talking to myself.
You know, it's cool. Whatever you're most comfortable with, we will enjoy.
Okay, no problem. Just while I'm trying to get myself sorted here then, would you guys type into the chat for me what it is that you do? Whether, you know, you're an entrepreneur yourself or whether you work within a business, just so I can get a bit of a idea as to who's all with us. Oh, I think I just got the chat up. Yes. Sorry, I keep forgetting everyone can hear me. So oh no, don't go away again. Yes, it's arrived. My God, sorry, I feel like a legend right now for finding that. So that's made me really happy. But even though it was nothing to do with me, it was Dawn, so thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Well, everyone applause for Dawn, please.
Yes. Well done, literally. Oh my goodness. Right, I'm just going to really quick scan through. So we've got some entrepreneurs. Yeah. Wow, a dating website. Oh my God, wow, how cool is that? And I want to design it. Very good, that's great. Thank you guys. Just so I could get a bit of an idea of general dog's body. Very good, I like that. So we'll get cracking anyway. No problem at all. If you want, I can send you out some bits afterwards. Just connect with me on LinkedIn or drop me a wee email. My website's at the bottom there. All right. Fab stuff. Yeah, just drop me a wee message and sure we can get connected. Right. I'm finally going to kick off for everyone. Now you'll be expecting big things and it'll be like big anticlimax, like off the back of it. So thank you to Raise for inviting me along this evening. Really, really pleased to be with you guys here tonight. I'm going to be discussing self-care for entrepreneurs, and we're going to have a little look at what self-care actually is. We're going to have a look at some mindfulness activities. First of all, though, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself in the same way Eve did, just so I can give you a bit of background as to who I actually am. You're not thinking, who is this random English girl who's come on to speak to us? So I am Katie Matthews. I am 28 years old. I'm a mental health and wellbeing trainer, and I have a few businesses. So I run the Mind Tribe UK, which is, of course, related to the mental health and wellbeing side. And then I also run Excel and Education Tutoring School. As well as that, I run the voluntary network, YENI, the Young Entrepreneurs Network in Northern Ireland, set up just over a year and a half ago. And that's how I kind of met the guys through Raise, really. They've been really, really helpful and really supportive of us. So we're very grateful to them for that. I'm going to speak a little bit about mental health. So just a little trigger warning there just before I say anything, just to keep yourselves right, basically. I've got 11 years lived experience with mental illness. So it's something that I'm very happy to speak about. I'm fine with sharing that with people. I have lived with depression for 11 years. So I was diagnosed when I was 17. And then I've lived with anxiety for 6 years now. And that started just as I graduated from university, which was Queen's. So you can probably hear I'm from England originally, but I've lived over here now for coming on 10 years. But my accent still hasn't changed that much. I think I'm still quite clearly English, although I've picked up a little bit of the slang. So I'm a level 3 mental health first aider, qualified mindfulness instructor, and I'll let you read the rest of that rather than me just listing things at you. But basically, I love anything that's to do with supporting people's mental health, to do with entrepreneurship, to do with education. So they're kind of all the things that I would be passionate about, really. And of course, with that, then the marriage between those topics is what we're really looking at tonight, self-care for entrepreneurs. So this always makes me laugh, this quote, when you start thinking, okay, what is an entrepreneur? For me, I'm a solopreneur, or it's just me, I'm self-employed. So that's why this made me laugh when I read it, because I thought, yeah, that's quite true a lot of the time. I'm not the best for sitting down and making plans, which I know goes against everything that we're told. But when I thought about it a little bit deeper, I thought, well, what is an entrepreneur? We're everything to the business. We are our businesses. We are the accountant. We are the person in charge of marketing. We're the ones doing sales. We're the ones doing all the admin. So entrepreneurs are filling so many different roles that a lot of the time we're then forgetting to look after ourselves, and not prioritizing our own mental health and well-being. And that links in to what we're going to look at on the one after this. So what is self-care then? Self-care, you can see the actual definition, is any activity that we're doing deliberately. So that's really crucial, deliberately doing it in order to take care of our mental, emotional and physical health. Okay. So a lot of the time, as this, I'm sure we've all heard this saying, give me a wee nod if you've heard it. I'm sure you have, about the fit your own gas mask first, or fit your, I think it's fit your own oxygen mask first. Why did I put gas mask in? Okay, anyway, you get the idea. So I just realized, I was like, you've misquoted the saying, like, come on now. So but that is
okay, I think we got it anyway.
The idea is there. So But you know, the notion is the same, that we need to be looking after ourselves first. And again, in the picture there with the cup, it was my mum that sort of shared this idea with me a few years ago. And it's just something, it's just one of the images that really sticks with me. And you know, it is so true. You can't pour from an empty cup. If we don't look after ourselves, then who else is going to do it for us? You know, and that was one of the big realizations in my own journey with mental illness as well, was that part of it, part of my recovery and part of the treatment plan had to be me taking ownership. You know, it's me actually deciding that I was going to help myself to get better, because when you're in a very dark place, that can be very, very difficult to do. So it was just realizing, you know, if I'm not going to look after myself, no one else is going to do it. And I am an entrepreneur, which means I get to use my time. You know, I get to decide what I do with my time, who I see, what activities I participate in. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about entrepreneurship, is the freedom side. I don't know if you guys are the same, you know, if that's something that really appeals to you. But that's, for me, that's definitely one of the biggest bonuses of being self-employed. So when we think of self-care, a lot of the time people think it is perhaps, you know, this ritualistic type event where you have to be having bubble baths and candles lit and music playing and face masks. That can be lovely. For some people, that is what they need to do. But it goes beyond that. Okay, so that's sort of like our surface interpretation of like, right, this is what it looks like. But it's not just that. Okay. So what can self-care actually look like then? So it could be healthy eating, or it is healthy eating, should I say. And, you know, I'm not sitting here as somebody, not sitting here as a catwalk model, should we say, preaching about healthy eating and dieting and trying to lose weight or anything. But we definitely know in terms of mental health that there is a connection between your gut health and your mental health. Okay, so if we are incorporating things like vitamin D, vitamin B12 into our diet, that's going to support our normal immune function, support our gut health, and also therefore support our mental health and well-being as well. This is one that I really struggle with, is the doing nothing. I don't know if anybody else is the same. As an entrepreneur, or even just as a professional, you know, as a working adult, we've got so many things to be doing all the time. We're thinking, right, if we've got kids, we're thinking, okay, right, what the kids doing tomorrow, and have I made the dinner, and have I done the washing? We're always thinking of what's the next thing I need to do. So sometimes we just need to sit and do nothing and enjoy it. And it's so hard to do. You know, that's the time when we normally start to maybe pick up our phone, and we might start just aimlessly scrolling, guilty of it. Might start, you know, even just playing games just as a little escape for 5 minutes. But if we can disconnect from that technology as well, because obviously, you know, everything that we're doing at the moment, or a lot of what we're doing at the moment, is technology focused. You know, as you were saying, Eve, it's all in this digital space. So we sometimes need to come out of that, you know, and reconnect with ourselves and reconnect with the world around us, you know, and just being a bit more mindful and a bit more present. The feeling guilty part, I don't know if anybody else gets this, about if you're not doing anything, you feel as if you're not being productive, or you're not achieving something, or you're not contributing. I don't know if anybody else feels the same, but with my anxiety, there's definitely an element of guilt that comes there. Putting on clean pajamas. This is one of my favorite things of self-care, mostly because I just love pajamas. I'm obsessed. As you probably gathered at the beginning, I couldn't stand up for Emma's part, unfortunately, because I have pajama bottoms on. Even though I look presentable at the top, I have got Harry Potter pajamas and fluffy socks on. So anything that makes you feel, you know, cozy and comfy that can be a form of self-care as well. You know, you're feeling nurtured, you're feeling safe, and it's giving you that sensory input as well. You know, you've got things, obvious things, changing your bed sheets, you need to have a good amount of sleep and rest. You know, for some people, reading a book is their escape, and that is their self-care. That nurtures their soul, that makes them feel happy, and they're doing it deliberately. For some people, they may write a diary or they may journal. I've got a gratitude journal, and then I have a wee mindfulness journal as well, which I love doing. I absolutely love it. And I would usually sit as well with some sort of like mindfulness colouring to try and switch off, because I find it, well, again, as I said earlier, I find it hard to sit and do nothing. So I'm almost like, right, I'm doing something that's kind of active, but it's relaxing as well. So that's definitely a great one, is the mindfulness colouring. And then I skipped out the yoga, meditation and mindfulness, because we're going to explore some more about mindfulness later. These forms of self-care are ones that people don't normally think of straight away. You know, when we say self-care, a lot of people think of what I showed at the beginning, where it's all bubble baths and getting manicures and massages. It's not just that. Okay, so self-care can be setting boundaries. It can be switching off from work, allowing yourself the time and space to rest properly, to disconnect, removing negative or toxic people. This is one particularly that I found over the last sort of few years, since graduating from university, really, the last maybe, what, 4 or 5 years or 6 years? How old am I? 6 years. So I've been out longer than I remember. You know, and cutting out people that have had that toxic impact has allowed me as well to progress on my healing journey and supports, you know, your mental health and well-being, because you're not consistently having somebody that is injecting that negativity or that toxicity into your life. Unfollowing social media accounts. So I've had to, this was a tip I saw, I can't remember where I saw it, but I saw it on another, ironically, on a Facebook page. And but I thought, do you know what, you're like, that's so right. So I sat there, and anything that was kind of like making me really upset. You probably heard me say earlier about the animals. I'm a crazy dog lady with 3 dogs, and I literally think they're my children. So any videos that are on that are about harming animals or anything like that, I can't deal with it. It sets me off. But I realized it's actually more than that. It's not just it's setting me off. It's actually one of my triggers. It makes me really emotional. It probably sounds really irrational, but the nature of anxiety is that it is irrational. So what I did, I just went through and unfollowed the social media accounts that were making me feel that way. And it's so much nicer then when you are in that digital space that is more positive. Taking your medication. I'm fine, you know, saying that I've been on medication since I was diagnosed. And if I don't take it, my fiance knows, he can tell. And then obviously I can tell myself. So that's another form of self-care, ensuring that, you know, your needs are being met. Things like going to the doctors, asking for help and support when you need it. You know, if you are struggling, which to be honest, a lot of us probably are at the moment, or we're feeling maybe a bit unsettled, just not feeling maybe quite ourselves, because obviously we're out of routine. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for support and say, do you know what, I'm not doing okay at the moment, or I need help with this. And then, as I said earlier, about spending less time on devices where you can, because obviously we all know about the addictive nature of social media. So I'm going to see, when I was doing that, the chat disappeared again. So I'm going to see if I can get it back up. Would you guys type into the chat for me what you think mindfulness is? So some of you may have experience with mindfulness. You may do it regularly. Others may not at all. That's absolutely fine. Just whenever you hear that word mindfulness, what sorts of words and ideas come to mind? Oh, yay, I can actually see what everyone's writing again. That stuff. I don't know how I'm getting rid of it each time, but sure. I'm going to scroll back really quickly and just read through. Because everybody put lovely stuff and I haven't read it. Yes, going outside definitely helps with doing nothing. Yes, you need Slytherin pajamas. Harry Potter is just compulsory. It doesn't matter how old I get, I will not let it go of it. And also Disney. So I think I am Mulan, okay? I'm aware that I'm nearly 30 and I have a problem. So yes, Dawn. Yeah, that's it, definitely. Yeah, surrounding yourself with good news is so much better, isn't it? Okay, so we've got spiritual awareness, being thoughtful, being aware, time out, mindfulness, being here and now. Brilliant. Oh, lovely. Oh, Dawn's got a lovely image there, taking shoes off at the beach in the winter too. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. No. I freak out if it like drops a degree. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Not that I'm dramatic or anything, you know. So being aware of what's going on with yourself, concentrating on the present, considering others, everything. Not getting overwhelmed. Wow, oh my goodness, there's literally so many ideas. Thank you so much. Red wine is the final one. Very good. Do you know what? I don't even drink though. My fix is Diet Coke. Naughty. So so that's brilliant. Thank you so much for contributing those ideas. This is our technical definition, but I won't read it out to you. I'm sure you can read that yourselves. The two bits at the bottom that I really like to focus on is the present moment awareness and also the non-judgmental side of it. What's really great about it being something that is non-judgmental is that it takes out guilt and it also takes out any sort of competition. This is great as well if you want to include it into, you know, your work practices, or even if you want to include it at home, and maybe if you have kids. That's why it's really great, is because there's no competition. So immediately it removes that stress for people and takes that out, so they're able to just then focus and tune into themselves. Some of the benefits of mindfulness, I'll just pick out a couple of them. I won't read them because otherwise we're not going to get a chance to do the practical activities, because I know I'm just turning this into like an entire big long presentation, so I do apologize. I'll speed up. So benefits of mindfulness: you've got increased resilience, emotional regulation improves, your sleep improves. What I think is really, really interesting as well is about your immune function. So I think, who was it earlier? Who said earlier about the Wim Hof? Somebody said earlier about Wim Hof.
Yeah, I mentioned it.
Yeah, I thought so. I was like, I'm sure this came up today. I love doing that. It's fantastic. If you haven't looked into it, you should. It's honestly fantastic. He basically got injected, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I'm right, with E. coli. And they were doing like hospital experiments on him. He devised this whole like breathe-in meditation plan thing. I know I've like completely not explained that very well. I never do, but
well, that's pretty much it. Pretty much he got injected with E. coli, and then his blood cells then were like getting killed off or whatever, and then he was able to just kill the disease effectively and get rid of everything just through his own techniques or whatever. And he's also like climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in a pair of shorts in the next couple of months in winter. So he's just an absolute madman.
Well, they call him the Iceman. That's what they call him. He was on This Morning a couple of weeks ago, I think, as well. So definitely something that's worth looking into, especially for the immune function. I have a autoimmune condition. So that's one of the reasons why I actually started to look into the mindfulness. It wasn't just for the mental health side, it was actually for my immune function as well. And that's again what I was speaking about earlier, your connection between gut health and mental health. And then mindfulness is great for decreasing stress. Your blood pressure comes down, your heart rate slows, your anxiety decreases, rumination decreases. So that's where we are going round and round and round on the same point, and we keep overthinking things and we can't break that negative cycle. and it also helps with chronic pain. So we're going to do some mindfulness activities. Has anybody done mindfulness activities before? I know obviously we did a few breathing exercises at the beginning, which I have to say, Emma, you have done the first one that I was going to do. So well done. We can tick that one off. It's finished already. Oh, I can't get the chat up again.
I've done colouring in before. It's the height of my mindfulness experience, really.
Yeah, just jump on and say sure. I don't know why I didn't even say that before. Sorry. So say that again for me.
Saying I've done colouring in before, so like just mindfulness colouring in, but just for and just general art, I suppose, just for chilling outness and stuff like that.
Stuff. Has anybody else done any other forms of mindfulness or any activities they like to do?
I tend to walk in nature and then just make myself aware of actually what's going on around me, listen to the birds. And it's actually, I used to be so fearful of birds that it's actually created a more intrigue to them now. So my fear is completely gone, and I've become weirdly obsessed with like what's going on with the birds and the trees, the birds and the bees.
No, but that's great though, because
but,
you know, you're taking something that was previously something you may be apprehensive of, and you're embracing it and using it as an opportunity.
Yeah, well, I find the mindfulness practice really help with that. So yeah, the walk in nature, like Dawn says she goes to the beach, I do the same, but I find really grounding myself around nature is really a really good thing to do, you know, listening to literally everything, every sound you pick up on. It seems to be at an extra level for me now for some reason. I don't know why, but it's really good.
No, that's great. Thank you very much, Rachel, for sharing that. Does anyone else have any other activities or exercises or practices that they like to do? Apologies if people have typed it into the chat because I can't see it again. I am very sorry.
Rachel has said, another Rachel said yoga and meditation really helps. And Jenny had said listening to the Chill Out podcast.
That's a good one. That's what I've been kind of doing that a bit more recently. Listening to podcasts, but music's definitely a great one as well. So you've all come up with fantastic ideas.
Something I do sometimes, just throw an extra one, is see on YouTube I search for rather than actually going out to nature, which is stupid, I should just do that, but sometimes what I do is actually search for like high definition HD like nature videos and put them on what, like listen to the sound of the waves and sort of do that sort of ASMR type thing.
I'm pleased it's not just us that does that.
Yeah, that was amazing.
We do that in our house and put it up on the big telly and we're like
so my dog loves it. It's the best thing that gets my dog to sleep.
Really?
He just sits and chills out by the fake fire. I'm like, yes.
Oh, lovely. No, that's definitely a good one, because the thing is as well, sometimes if you actually can't get out into nature, it's almost like simulating that as best you can, you know.
Yeah, there's a few more on chat here, by the way. Just George said coaching kids sports gets me away from the mundane, and then Emma said Bollywood dancing, and Connor said exercising, and then Michael has said never thought of it as mindfulness, but Google street view walks, revisiting places you've visited or lived.
Wow. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. I'm definitely doing that. I do it like if I'm going somewhere and I need to know what the parking's like. That's I would do that on Google Maps because that's part of my anxiety. That worries me. Which probably sounds trivial, but it literally gets me in a state. So yeah, we've all got, I suppose, our own little quirks, haven't we? So the first breathing exercise was the diaphragmatic breathing that we were going to do, but we've covered that already. So just to reiterate the main points about, you know, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system, and whenever you're doing your breathing, the first thing when you say to somebody breathe, they start going and shoulders start coming up, and I'm thinking to myself, is that how we breathe normally? So, you know, it's just keeping our shoulders down nice and relaxed, and then everything else that Emma of course said earlier about in through your nose, out through your mouth, etc. So the next breathing exercise we'll do together then is infinity breathing. Okay, so the infinity symbol, you can think of it as a sleeping 8 if you want. That's what I do when I'm teaching it to children. I tell them it's a sleeping 8. You can trace this onto your hand. So some people like to trace it onto their palm. I don't like that because it tickles me. I find that weird. I can do it on the other side. You can do it onto your tummy if you want to. You could even trace it into the air. So if you traced it into the air and followed your finger as you were breathing. So as you go around one side, you're going to breathe in through your nose. And then as you go around the other side, you're going to breathe out through your mouth. Okay, so nice little simple ones. You can even, if it's something you need just like a mindful minute, basically, just a minute away from the screen, you can just trace it onto the desk next to you. You know, you could even close your eyes while you're doing it if you wanted to. Or you could get a piece of paper and draw and then trace it with your finger as well. If you're a person who's more tactile and you prefer more of a sensory input, if you've got something like a bit of string or what would you have on your desk? Even like a paper clip, if you really wanted to sit there and mold it, you could do. But usually if you've got, something like string or rope, you could make it into that and trace it onto it. If you wanted to incorporate it home with your kids and do it as an activity, you could use Play-Doh. You could use what they call pipe cleaners. You know, so there's ways that you can adapt it. Just some people are more kinesthetic learners and they prefer the sensory input. The triangle one then is sometimes called triangle breathing or 4-7-8 breathing. The one I've put up is the 3-3-3. Okay, so there's a few different ways of adapting this. So the 3-3-3, you can see you're going to breathe in for 3 seconds through your nose, hold it for 3 seconds, and then breathe out for 3 seconds through your mouth. So if we do 3 of those now, so breathe in through your nose, 2, 3, and hold, 2, 3, and out through your mouth, 3, and breathe in, 2, 3, and hold, 2, 3, and breathe out, 2, 3, and last one, in, 2, 3, and hold, 2, 3, and out, 2, 3. There we go. My goodness, I nearly got lost there doing my own counting. So if you are feeling particularly anxious about something, the 4-7-8 can be a really good one to do. So you're breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 7 seconds, and then exhaling for 8 seconds. There is a scientific reason for that. Does anybody want to hazard a guess? Actually, you'll probably have to read it from the chat to me, or just unmute and just say it if anybody knows why. What would be the scientific reason as to why you would try to breathe out for longer than you're breathing in if you're feeling particularly anxious?
Is it the CO2 oxygen levels?
Yay! Fab! Star pupil, Emma. I should have said you weren't allowed to answer. So, so yes, perfect. It is. It's to do with the CO2 levels. So all you're doing when you're exhaling for longer, you're decreasing the carbon dioxide levels in your blood. So that then has a calming effect, essentially.
You know what's interesting? Just on that point. Whenever I used to be in a school band, I used to play a musical instrument called a baritone, and they taught us at school to breathe out longer and then breathe in. But basically, they told us that the longer we breathe out, it means we'll actually be able to hold our breath for longer.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I know, it's strange, isn't it? And that's part of the Wim Hof show, if you think that breathing technique is to do with decreasing the carbon dioxide levels and isn't it to do with making it more alkaline or something as well? Yeah. So the next one then, no, I had something else to say on that. Yes, I was going to say about the anxiety. If somebody is having a panic attack, or if you feel suddenly really overwhelmed and you feel like maybe you're going to have a panic attack, if you haven't had one before, you may get, a tight chest. Sometimes people mistake it for a heart attack. Although if you haven't had it before, still phone an ambulance, because you don't want to take the risk just in case. But the best thing to do is to get them to breathe out, or for you yourself to breathe out first before you tell them to breathe in. So a lot of the time, you know, when somebody's like that and they can't get their breath, people say to them, right, take a big deep breath in, but you don't want them to do that, because that's the point, is they can't catch their breath. So you get them to breathe out first, and then it allows their body to almost start to regulate the breathing again. So just a fun tip. The hand breathing there, I'm sure you can see from the diagram, this one's pretty self-explanatory. As you are tracing your fingers, as you go up one side, you're going to breathe in, pause when you get to the tip, and breathe out as you go down the other side. So same thing again, breathe in as you go up one side, pause at the tip, and then down. And the same for the third finger. Breathe out. Fourth finger. Breathe out. And the final finger. There we go. That's a great one as well. That is short for a start. You can extend it if you want to do the other hand as well. Again, you can make it more sensory if you need a bit of stimulation almost. You know, you can draw it and trace around it. You could get a glove, like a, what they're called, like a nursing glove, not a, what they're called, surgical gloves, there we go. And fill it with something like flour, and then put an elastic band on the end, and it gives it a bit of weight, and it feels nice. It's like a nice texture. So you could always do it on that as well. And again, that's something that you could bring home and do with kids. But this version of it, where we're just sitting and tracing our own hand, you know, you can do that at any time throughout the day. So if you're sitting at your desk and you're doing some of Emma's Pilates / stretching moves, then you can maybe incorporate that as well, and do a little bit of the breathing exercises as well. Another one that's great for breathing exercises, has anybody heard of the Speakmans? Nick and Eva Speakman? They're usually on This Morning, as in the programme. They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing at what they do. They they've come up with their own theory, like psychotherapy basically, but it's amazing when you see it. They've worked with people with like extreme PTSD and phobias, and they were showing this really, really simple exercise, and I like to call it the Speakman sigh. So you may feel a bit strange doing this one, but could you interlock your hands for me in the way that feels natural? So everybody has a way that feels comfortable. And then what I want you to do is to unfurl them, if you like, and switch and put them interlocked in the way that doesn't feel comfortable. So it feels a bit weird, first of all, when you do it. So put them in the way that's uncomfortable and hold it like that. Okay. We're going to do 3 of these sighs that I'm going to show you. And then after, at the end of them, I want you to see if you can tell me if there's any difference as you switch between the 2. Does that make sense, what I mean? Or not really? Kind of. So you go into the awkward position now. We're about to do the sighs, and then after the sighs, I want you to just keep switching and just see what you notice. Okay, so into the awkward position, and you're going to breathe in through your nose, and then you know that noise when you get in from work and you sit down and you go, ah, that's the noise I want you to make. Okay, so you're all on mute, so don't worry, you can just hear me doing a nice breathing sound in your ears. So breathe in through your nose, and another one, and the third one. We'll go for 2 more because it's fun. And 1 more. And now quickly switch between them. Keep swapping backwards and forwards and just see if there's anything that you notice. If anybody does notice anything, do you want to unmute yourselves for a wee second and see if anyone has any comments on that? If they've noticed anything. There's no right or wrong answers.
I feel like something in my knuckles here. It's weird. I feel like, I don't know.
That's grand. So,
Something there.
no, that's grand because you're tuning into it, and that's what
Yeah.
part of the mindfulness practice is being connected to your body.
Or something. Maybe that's something. I don't know what it is.
Fab. Was there any difference for anyone between the first time you went into the awkward position and then after the breathing exercises? Rachel, I think she just said, "Oh my God."
Yeah, no, mine feels like it's comfortable in the awkward position now, and it's not. It's comfortable in my normal position, which is really weird.
So sometimes people say it swaps, and other times people say they both feel comfortable now.
Or my comfortable feels uncomfortable again.
Or that the uncomfortable, as I say, doesn't feel as awkward anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know if everybody kind of got something like that, or maybe you didn't really know what you were looking out for. But the reason we do the swapping at the end is basically just to illustrate the point of what you're actually doing to your body when you are releasing those sighs. So earlier, Emma mentioned about your parasympathetic nervous system. So when you release and you do those sighs, you're actually activating that part of your body. You're activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So that's why so quickly, after even just 3 or 5 of those breaths, you can feel the difference. Usually you want to be doing it sort of like 10, 15, 20 times to really feel the benefit. But, it is a really simple thing you can do. And as Emma said earlier, free. So
I wonder why it's doing it though. I wonder why.
Well, it's when you're oh, go on, yeah.
No, I don't know. I'm just thinking like, what's the physiology in that in terms of like why does your body physically do that? Like, I don't know.
It's interesting though, isn't it? I remember when I first saw them do it, and I was like, what? I was sitting there doing it with them, and I was like, this is amazing. I was like, I'm using this in everything from now on. So I totally stole that from them like 2 years ago. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on these last 2 slides because I'm aware that literally I've been speaking for so long, and I'm so sorry. But I would just say what you can do as a written exercise to look after your mental health is to sit and do what's called your zones. So sit and think, right, what is it that's in my comfort zone? Where do I feel safe? Where am I comfortable? Where do I feel confident? Your stretch zone is your optimal zone for learning. Okay, so that's where the learning, growth and development happens, and where you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. But it's also worth noting in that section the things that are starting to edge towards the danger zone then on the outside, because these then can become your triggers or are your triggers. Okay, so that danger zone is where we're feeling unsettled. We're in that fight or flight state, technically fight, flight, freeze, flop or friend state. But we're in that state where we can't think properly, and performance then is actually going to decrease at that stage. Okay, so have we think about what triggers me, what makes me not be able to be productive, essentially. And then you're thinking, okay, well, how can I take them from my danger zone? What can I do? What actions or what steps can I take to bring me back into that stretch zone, and then potentially even bringing them into your comfort zone, but just trying to reduce the impact then of those triggers. Okay, and then same thing with this one, what you can control exercise. This is great if you're feeling quite anxious about things. Sometimes I do it as a flower, so inside the petals I will write the things that I can control, and the things that I have decision-making power to enforce or to look after. And then on the outside of them, or on the outside of the bubble, however you lay it out, you think about the things then, okay, well, what can I not control? And when you're sitting there visually looking at it, it allows you to let go a little bit of the stuff on the outside, because you can see then in that bubble, right, this is what I do have control of. And it allows you almost to take back a bit of the ownership. And that particularly helps me at the moment, particularly with this whole COVID situation. that's been helping me to get through, is thinking, okay, what do I have control of? And every podcast and everything recently, I've mentioned the fact that I've lost nearly 3 stone, because I'm really proud. So I just keep mentioning it. So, but the reason that's a big thing for me is because that was one of the things that I actually could control throughout this lockdown period. So I was like, right, this is the time to take control of it. Okay, so it's not all negative. And then there's just some other wee relaxation ideas, and other bits and pieces. I think most of you have mentioned some of these anyway, or some of you have mentioned most of these anyway, other way around. And then that is me. So I'm actually going to stop now. I realise I went on for so long, and I'm so sorry. You probably gathered that I'm a talker. So thank you very much for your time. And if anybody wants any further information, or about any services or courses that I offer, or even if you just want to connect on LinkedIn, or just have a wee chat, or grab a virtual coffee or a virtual lunch to talking about, you may not want to after this. You may think, no, it's all right. But thank you very much for getting involved, and yes, back to you guys. Thank you.
Well done, Katie. That was brilliant, and like, breathing techniques are amazing. I just think like breathing is something that we don't do enough. It's so funny that like just remembering to breathe can actually help your ability to like do like your whole day, and lots of different ways. Like it can help your confidence, it can help your posture, it can help everything. So like those simple sort of breathing techniques are really good to hear. And thanks so much for talking to us tonight.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Oh my God, I literally realised how long I was talking. I'm really sorry.
You're totally cool. It's totally cool. Does anyone have any questions that they want to unmute and have a quick chat before we call it a night?
No, I think it was really, really informative. Thank you for your time, Katie.
No problem. Even if you have a question in terms of like mental illness, as in like you want to ask me something about that, I'm fine answering that. I don't mind. Or even if anybody wants to follow up afterwards separately and you want to ask about something again, that's absolutely fine.
Here's a question for you, Katie. What do you think about just in general and the mental health of sort of let's say Britain and Ireland right now? And like, do you think with COVID and stuff like that, how do you think we're coping as a nation? And just in general, what are your thoughts on that, I suppose?
See, the problem is at the moment, or / the way that it works in terms of getting statistics, there's always a delay. So we don't have any sort of like concrete evidence as such. However, there was something I read today. I can't remember who it was that were conducting it, but they found that there's been a 300% increase in symptoms of anxiety in children. And there's been a 400% increase in symptoms of depression in children. So that would be my area of sort of like specialism, if you like. Like I deal with everything to do with mental health and adults, etc. But my specialism would be children and young people. And
Identified what the cause of those are?
Pardon?
Have they identified the causes of them?
They're saying it's from the pandemic. This one has just literally, the survey was done over the last, I think it was 4 months or 3 months. Yeah, it was one or the other. I saw it online today.
Age groups? Was it?
It was from. No, it was up to. Was it up to 18 or up to 25? It was one or the other, up to 18 or up to 25. Because I don't know if it included. Is that the cat? I don't know. Is that like?
That's my daughter.
Oh God, there's me. Is that a cat? So... Apologies. So, yeah. So obviously, our children and young people have really been affected by this, but we're all feeling it. People that haven't experienced any sort of mental ill health throughout their lives are all of a sudden going, "What's this feeling I'm having? Why does my chest feel tight? Why can't I sleep properly? Why is my diet all over the place?" If anybody wants to share, of course you don't have to, but has anybody noticed any changes within themselves, even over the last few months of the pandemic or over lockdown?
I've noticed a change actually in the people that I work with. So, clients, potential clients ring in with inquiries. Even sort of my clients tend to sort of stay with us for years. And I've noticed that people are actually gentler and kind of kinder to each other. I don't know if anybody else has come across that, but it's like people are saying, so how you doing? Are you okay? How's everything going? I have some clients who know that my mum has been through cancer just last year and this year, and has gotten treatment and has been very successful, but it was a very stressful time. And then we thought we just got her through that, and then COVID happened, and we're just like, oh my goodness, we just can't cope with any more just as a family. And I just find that clients are being really gentle and kind with each other and with us, just checking in more than they normally would, and asking sort of more personal questions and saying, are you doing okay? How's everything going with the business, and how's everything going personally? And so I think, I know there is a rise in mental health issues, and I've certainly had that myself in the past, but I'm just finding that people are a little bit softer and a bit more human at the moment, just because it's so much harder. Everything's harder, you know.
It's nice though, isn't it? It's almost bringing out the best in people as well, because they are, you know, as you say, being kinder and, you know, checking in with each other more. So did anyone else have anything that they want to ask me just before I hand back, or maybe I should have handed back already, sorry. So
you're totally cool, Kitty. Just tell me whatever you want. I think on that note as well, I agree with what Dawn was saying. Just I think a lot of people are more calmer, and I think people are just having a lot more empathy for the situation right now, where maybe people wouldn't have even understood empathy, or like actually tried to be empathetic in anything in their life, and just people are very much focused on their own selves. But I think even over the past couple of days, just even like, I know I personally have been affected. We're just like listening to the news, like all these people that work in coffee shops and cafes and restaurants and all have to close their doors now. It's like you actually have to think about people's lives and how that's affecting stuff. So it's massively changing sort of how people feel about each other. So it's interesting. Like, it's
nice to see that there are some positives that are coming out of this situation.
Definitely.
You know, it's not all doom and gloom. It's dogs and cats and pajamas.
Pajamas.
Yes, all the good stuff.
That's cool. We have no more questions in the chat, so if anyone has any final thoughts, feel free to jump in now, or if not, you can hit that big end button and leave.
Or forever hold your peace.
I think that's us then, but thanks so much, Kitty. Thanks so much, Eve, and thanks so much, Emma. That was brilliant. Really enjoyed all of it. Really great tips from you, Eve, and really great just release of negative tension in my body, Emma, and just really good breathing techniques and everything, Kitty. So loved it all. Thanks so much, and we're going to share this to our YouTube channel, so we'll be able to share it with more people. So thanks for everyone for stopping by.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.